Alright, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. Today I'm going to be doing my Journey Together complete set review and buy list talk for today's video. I'm going to be reviewing the entire set, looking at what cards are good, and then also explaining what cards you probably want to be buying in bulk, of course, for a buy list. What are the most important cards from the set that you want to pick up? I'm going to explain all that in today's video. Pre-releases were just happening this weekend, and they're going to be continuing throughout the week, so hopefully this video ends up being useful to y'all for Journey Together. I'll give a big shout out to Pokebeach here for having the full set list. Unfortunately, Pokemon.com have not printed or posted the full set list yet on their website, so I'm going to be using Pokebeach today. I'll leave a link to it down below. And if you're new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 22K subs. And yeah, let me know what you think about Journey Together down below. So let's get into it here with the set review. So we got some grass Pokemon here. We did this new Butterfree. It's got the attack scales Hurricane for 1 grass energy, does 60 damage. You flip 4 coins, does 60 for each heads. If 2 or more are heads, you get to paralyze your opponent's active Pokemon. Not a terrible attacker. It's going to be a fun little Bad Deck Friday card. The Butterfree's not like super playable though, but it's a fun little just meme deck. There's a new Parasect here. It doesn't really do anything too crazy though. But what is nice is the new Lilligant. Probably a card you want to pick up a couple copies of here with the ability Sunny Day. Your grass and fire Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. That's a really good ability. Grass Pokemon, especially, haven't really had a good damage kind of card in a while. I mean, the best card they got right now is Teal Mask Ogerpon, but Lilligant's a really nice addition to the format for grass and even fire, to be honest. Some fire types could play this card. I don't think Lilligant is like playable right out the gate, but there could be a day where this card ends up being decent, so probably want to pick up at least I mean, I guess a playset of this wouldn't hurt. I don't think decks will play like a 4-4 Lilligant, like probably a 2-2 line at most, but wouldn't hurt to have a playset of Lilligant just in case. But at least you at least want 2 Lilligants for sure. So Numeractus has the ability Bursting Needles. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, you put 6 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, and then it's got the corner attack, which retreat locks your opponent for 20 damage. Now, this Pokemon has seen a little bit of play recently in some fringe decks, so probably a card you want to have 1 copy of just in case. Retreat Lock with the ability is actually pretty strong. I've seen decks like Frostlass playing this card. There's some interesting things you can do with this Maractus, so probably want to pick up 1 copy of this at the very least, just in case. Because Retreat Locking, there's a few cards in the format that do that, like Wellspring Ogerpon, but I have seen a bit of Maractus in Japan. We are getting a Mungus EX here. It's a card that was supposed to be in the starter decks in Japan, or at least we were supposed to get in Prismatic, and we didn't. It's not really very playable, though. If you pull this, you probably won't really do anything with it. It's not very good. Like, I guess play with the Lilligant, but, I mean, even for Bad Deck Friday, that just probably isn't good enough to work. This newest Selgor is kind of cool, though. It's got the attack where you can do 70 damage if your opponent's active, or your opponent's active is now poisoned and confused, and then you switch with one of your bench Pokemon. So you can turn the Selgor into a hit and run deck, which is really cool. This pairs well with the new Tyranitar we're going to look at in this video. Not a bad card. I wouldn't say this Selgor is, like, super playable, though. It's probably not like a card you're going to want to pick up. In all honesty, you can probably go without picking up this Selgor. It's just a fun little card. You're probably going to have more fun playing it online on Pokemon TCG Live. But, yeah, it's a fun card, but nothing too crazy. It's like, you know, the Butterfree, right? You probably don't need it you don't need to pick it up. New Durant, nothing crazy. New Virizian's not very good either. There are some bulk cards in the set from those starter decks, unfortunately. This new Meowscarada's got the ability Showtime. Once you're in turn, you may use the ability. If this Pokemon's on the bench, switch it with your active Pokemon. It's got Rising Bloom, does 90 damage. If your opponent's active is an EX, you get to 90 more damage. It's like pretty much like a fine card. I mean, the ability's cool, but we've seen it before on like the Gengar. There's like a Gengar and a Decidueye EX, which has similar abilities. The ability's not that great. I mean, yeah, you get out of, like, Wellspring Lock, I guess, which is cool, but I don't know. It's, like, probably not going to be very playable. Like, even if you're playing a Meowscarada EX deck post-rotation, which you already know I'm going to do a video on, I don't think I'm going to be playing this in the deck. It's just not worth it. Yeah, not very good. New Magmortar, though, isn't bad either. Once you're in Pokemon Checkup, put 3 more damage counters on your opponent's burned Pokemon. This ability is really strong because there's a new Volcanion EX, which we're going to look at very shortly, that can burn your opponent for free. So this card is actually decent with Volcanion. Probably want to get at least 2 copies of Magmortar, because this burn engine with Volcanion actually seems kind of good. And I'll talk about that when we get to the Volcanion and why the Volcanion is actually pretty powerful. And Magmortar is not a bad card to have. Now, not all the Volcanion decks are going to be playing the Magmortar. From what I've seen, only a few of them are. But it's not a bad card to have nonetheless, just because of the Volcanion being pretty good in this set. That goes really well with Make Mortar. I would probably get at least 2 copies of this card if you can, just in case. Now, Blaziken EX is a very cool card I'm very excited to toy with. It's got the ability Overflowing Spirit. Once during turn, you may attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and then it's got Burning Assault, which does 200 damage. The ability is really good. I have seen a lot of really cool ideas with Blaziken over in Japan. There's a lot of really interesting ways you can play this card. I'm really excited to have it finally come out. I thought we were going to get it in Prismatic, but we didn't, and we're finally getting it within Journey Together. This is probably a card you want to get a playset of if you can. I think Blaziken is a very good card that maybe right away it won't see a lot of play, but I think eventually Blaziken will be good, so I would definitely get 4 of these if you can. Probably going to see play at some point, or at the very least, I'm sure you're going to want to play something with this card. It's a cool card to build a deck around. The ability is really strong. It stacks. The attack's good. It's a pretty beefy Pokemon. It's a great card, so definitely want to get 4 copies of these if you can, in my opinion. All right. New Darmanitan here. Now, End Darmanitan is really cool because we all know the End deck looks kind of decent right now. End Darmanitan might only be good, though, for this one set block until we get Destined Rivals, because we know we're going to be getting the Shaman, which is like a Manaphy reprint. So, unfortunately, this card might not see a lot of play after Journey Together's not the main set anymore, but probably not a bad card to have if you're interested in playing the End deck. It's got 2 attacks. Backdraft, 30 damage for each basic energy in your opponent's discard pile, and then you got the other attack, Darmanitan Cannon, which does 90 damage. You discard all energy from it, does 90 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Unfortunately, it's not like Greninja in the same way you can do 90 to 2 Pokemon. It's only 90 to the active and then to a bench Pokemon. Still a very powerful card, though, nonetheless, in the End Zoroark deck. If you're going to be looking to build End Zoroark, I would probably pick up just 2 of these. You don't really need any more than 2. I have seen some decks, though, incorporate Darmanitan with Ends PP up outside of Zoroark. Like, I've seen Sarah Ledge playing this, so, like, you could pick up a playset of this card if you really wanted to. It's not that hard to get these, because if you go to the pre-release, it's in the pre-release kit. You can also get the promo in the pre-release kit, so you probably only need 2 of these, in all honesty, but if you want to go for 4, you can, but you probably just need 2 of them. Right. And obviously, you probably want a playset of the Darumaka, though, or 2 Darumakas. All right, new Reshiram, pretty unplayable card, and just nothing too crazy there. Again, a lot of the starter deck Pokemon are in this set. All right, here's the Volcanion I was referring to earlier. This card is actually really strong. It's got the ability Scorching Steam. Once during turn, this Pokemon is in the active spot, you can leave your opponent's active Pokemon burned. So, unlike playing a Brood Bonnet, you can actually burn your opponent instead with the Volcanion. It would still kind of get around Pheasantipity if they get knocked out by it. You can stack the damage with Meg Mortar. Also, this card is good with Latias, because at the start of your turn, if you have Latias on the bench and Volcanion, you can promote Volcanion in your active spot, burn your opponent, and then retreat with Latias to another Pokemon with some extra damage from burn. It's actually pretty good. This Volcanion Latias engine is actually really strong, and if you want to pair it with Meg Mortar, you can. I would probably at least pick up 1 copy of this. Most decks just play 1 Volcanion. The attack isn't very good. It's mostly just the ability. So maybe just get 1 copy of this. You can get a playset if you want. I don't think there will ever be a Volcanion EX deck, though. But one of Volcanion probably wouldn't be the worst thing ever, right? Or if you're somebody who builds multiple decks, maybe pick up 2 of these just in case. All right. We do have new Artillery. Doesn't really do anything too crazy. This new Ludicolo is cool. It's got the ability Vital Samba. Each of your Pokemon to play get plus 4 to HP. However, the ability won't stack. It's a cool little card. I don't think it's, like, that great, though. There's some cool ways you can play it. There's some fun things you can do with it. But I don't think it will see much competitive play. You probably don't need any Ludicolos. All right, new Wailord here. It's got Hydro Pump. Does 10 damage for 4 Colorless energy. Does 50 more damage for each water energy on it. Now, you can play this within Baxcalibur. Baxcalibur, keep in mind, will get a little bit weaker with rotation because it loses Irida and Greninja and Pokestop. But Wailord is not a bad partner if you can find a way to build it. If you're somebody who plays GLC, you probably want to get 1 copy of this for GLC, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think it's a fine card. Definitely not bad at all. Again, more of like a rogue deck, though. I wouldn't really call this like the Acelgor. I wouldn't really call it like a competitive deck. But you know what? I think out of all like the non-EX Pokemon, this one definitely has more potential than some of the others. So I don't know. If you want to get a couple copies of these, you can. I don't think it's very good. If you're somebody who plays GLC, though, you maybe want 1 copy of this. It's like cool. Just I don't think it's winning a regional anytime soon type good. You know what I mean? All right. Apparently, Veluza EX is in the set. It's got the attack Purge Strike. You may discard your hand. Does 120 more damage if you do that. So you're doing, what, 240 damage? I mean, it's like a pretty mediocre card. I don't think you're going to want to pick any copies of this up. If you just happen to pull it, you know, it is what it is. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Alolan Golem. It's been a while since we've seen a Alolan Golem. It's got Electromagnetic Catapult. 70 damage, flip a coin, take a tail, 70 for each head, for 0 energies. not very good, but Bad Deck Friday good, and I'll tell you that. Bad Deck Friday video right there. All right, new Iono's Voltorb and Electrode. Now, Voltorb, I think, is better than the Electrode. It's got the attack Chain Bolt, is 20 damage, free Shell Energy attached to your Iono's Pokemon. Actually, a pretty good attack, because we'll look at the Iono's Belly Bolt and Kilowattrel very shortly, and those cards are actually really good cards, and Belly Bolt has, like, Rain Dance for Light Energy for your Iono's Pokemon. It actually makes the Voltorb playable. Probably want to get a couple copies of this if you're looking to build an Iono deck. Electrode isn't that great, though. Maybe you want one of it. It does have the attack Heart Pounding Bomb for 2 light energy. It does 100 damage to itself, and then you flip a coin of heads, you knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. The problem with this card is you knock yourself out to potentially have a 50-50 chance of killing your opponent's active Pokemon, which isn't super spectacular. This card is, like, very mediocre. The Voltorb is a lot better, so that's why I'm saying you want to pick up at least a couple copies of the Voltorb, but the Electrode you probably can go without. All right, we got End's Joltik here. Crackling Short. 2 Colorless Energy does 30 damage. Before doing any damage, discard all tools. From your opponent's active, discard a tool in this way. Your opponent's active is now paralyzed. Not a bad attack. I don't know if the End deck is going to play this card, though, because it just doesn't do a lot of damage, and it's very situational. And it's a 40 HP Joltik sitting on your bench, which isn't very good either. So, honestly, pretty bad card. I guess you can get one of this just in case. You might want to play it in the End deck, but Joltik isn't that good, unfortunately. I think the End deck can go without it. Togamaderu here does have the attack Toga Spark, 40 damage, flip a coin of heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage. Done to it. Pretty mid card. New Coco, though, is interesting. Thunder Current, or Thunder Connect, 60 damage, does 20 more damage for each of your bench Pokemon. Just a worse Raikou V, obviously, but this card does actually have potential in Japan. I have seen a few decks playing it in Japan. If you end up playing against a deck weak to Lightning, it's not a bad attacker to have. There's Area 0, where you can increase this Pokemon's damage output for yourself. Definitely not a bad card to pick up one copy of. Just a single copy of Coco wouldn't hurt you. I have seen people using this as a way to counter stuff like Wellspring Ogrepawn and stuff. It's not a bad card at all. Definitely, like I said, picking up one copy of this won't hurt. Also, it attacks my Lotic. That's the other thing. This card is actually good against my Lotic EX. My Lotic EX is pretty good in rotation. Some decks are playing it. This card can actually hit for weakness against my Lotic. It's not a Terra Pokemon. Okay, so yeah, definitely pick up one copy of Coco if you can. This is actually a card that has seen play in Japan. All right, Iono's Belly Bolt EX. Electric Streamer. As often as you like, during your turn, you may attach a basic energy from your hand to one of your Iono's Pokemon. So yeah, it's got that Rain Dance effect, Excalibur's ability for light energy on Iono's Pokemon, and it's got the attack Thunderous Bolt, which does 230 damage. Then it can't attack next turn. Belly Bolt is fine. It's not the worst attacker ever. The ability is what makes it good. In fact, Belly Bolt has been seeing a lot of play with Raging Bolt EX, because you can use the ability to put energy into play for Raging Bolt, and then you can, like, Sada to the Raging Bolt to build it up in a single turn. And Raging Bolt can do some insane damage with Belly Bolt's ability. So maybe pick up, like, 2 copies of this card, 3 copies of it, I guess. You could get a playset. I don't know if the attacking Belly Bolt deck is going to be as good as the Raging Bolt version, but getting a playset of this, I guess, wouldn't hurt, but you probably only need, like, 2 copies of Belly Bolt at most. Then we got the Kilowattrel here with the ability Flash Draw. You must discard a basic energy from your hand to use the ability. Once you're in turn, yeah, you must start a basic energy from this Pokemon to use the ability. Once you're in turn, draw a card until you have 6 in your hand. Pretty decent card, good in the Belly Bolt deck. You probably just want a couple copies of it. The ability is nice to draw cards, right, which is nice. So the Belly Bolt deck does have a draw engine, thankfully. So not a bad card. Again, you probably want like 2 copies of it at most going forward. All right, Lily's Clefairy. Now, this is definitely a card you're going to want to pick up maybe a playset of if you're building a multiple deck. It's a very good card. It's got the ability Fairy Zone. The weakness of each of your opponent's Dragon Pokemon in play is now Psychic. Really good. Psychic weakness is very good because you give it to Dragon Pokemon, and of course, Dragapult and Raging Bolt will not enjoy playing against this card. And then it's got the attack Full Moon Rondo, just 20 damage for each bench Pokemon. It's literally just a psychic version of Raikou V and Entei. Yeah, very strong card. It can hit for weakness against Dragapult and Raging Bull, which is what makes it relevant. A lot of decks are playing this card. Probably going to want at least 1 copy of it because it is that good, but a playset wouldn't go too bad either because it's just that good of a card. If you're building multiple decks in this format, you might want a playset of it because it is a very strong card that, like I said, a lot of decks have been splashing in. It's just a great way to counter Dragapult and Raging Bolt EX. Mostly Dragapult because it can one-shot it pretty effectively. So yeah, great card. One of the best cards in the set, in all honesty. All right, we got a Alolan Marowak with Retaliate. Does 30 damage. Anything is knocked out, 90 more damage. Not very good. Mr. Mime, not very good either. New Bayonet, though, is kind of annoying. Curse Speech. Your opponent shuffles 3 cards from your hand into their deck. Pair this with Zoroark Mechanician. You can actually leave your opponent with a 0-card hand, which is pretty funny. I don't know if Bayonet's going to be like a super good deck. Maybe pick up a couple copies of it or a playset if you really wanted to. If you're somebody who likes to play these control, like, lock decks, not a bad card to have, so maybe pick up a playset if you want. I just don't know if Bayonet is, like, that good, but it's definitely not a bad card to have a couple copies of it at the very least. So new Metagross is kind of cool. Joint Beam. 130 damage for 2 Psychic Energy. If you have a Beldum and Metang on your bench, you get to do 150 more damage, so you get to do 280. And it's not that hard to get a Beldum and Metang on your bench. You can easily play this with, like, TM Evo to make it a lot more efficient. Not bad. More bad deck Friday material. This card is, like, super competitive, but for fun, it's, like, fine, I guess. All right, new Sigilif here. Psychic Sphere, or End Sigilif, I should say. Psychic Sphere does 20, and then Victory Symbol. You can only see attack when you have 1 prize remaining. You win the game. Not very good. I don't think the End deck is going to play Sigilif, unfortunately. Like, maybe they'll play it, but probably not. Like, I think Darmanitan, Rescue Rammer is better. Like, I'd rather play the Joltik over the Sigilif at that point. So, not a very good card. I don't really think you need this for the End deck, in my opinion. New Oricorio's got Call for Family, which is cool. New Ribombee here, which doesn't say the text for some reason. Okay. Not sure where the text went. Okay, well, the Lily's Ribombee isn't, like, that good. I think you just play it from your hand when you evolve the Cutie Fly, and you can look at your opponent's hand and put any number of Pokemon you find there on their bench. It's not a bad card. Probably want a couple copies of it. The ability is nice, but yeah, it's, like, fine. Lily's Comfy here. Search your deck for any number of basic Lily's Pokemon and put them on your bench. So Lily's deck can play this. I don't know if there will be a Lily's deck, though, so not very crazy. Mimikyu EX, again, this is from the starter deck in Japan. Mischievous Hands, choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on each of them, and then Ghost Trip 120 Confusion. Pretty bad card. I don't think it's very good. You probably won't need it, in all honesty. Like, the first deck is cute, but, again, not very good. New Dhelmise isn't great. New Grimmsnarl does have Shadowy Knot, does 50 damage for each of the colorless energy in your opponent's active retreat cost, but isn't very good. Even when we get the next Grimmsnarl, Marnie's Grimmsnarl, it's not going to be good with that, even though you can't really play with it. All right, we're also finally getting Alchemy EX. We were supposed to get this card in Prismatic, I thought. It was in the starter decks in Japan. It's got the ability Sweet Gift. Once you're in turn, you can heal 30 from one of your Pokemon. The ability does stack. You can have, like, multiple Alchemies in play and heal a lot of damage, which is really cool. I don't know if you want to use this card overall. Like, healing isn't really that relevant right now, in my opinion. Like, it won't be super relevant. The best deck that can play it is, like, maybe, like, a tanky deck. But I don't know if it's very good. It is a bit of a liability being on your bench, too, if you're trying to be a tanky deck. It's, like, a fine card. I don't think you need to pick up a playset. It wouldn't hurt, I guess, to have 4 of these just in case. But I don't think this card will be that great. But you never know. All right. New Mamoswine EX has the ability at Mammoth Carry. Once you're in turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put in your hand. Then you got Rumbling March. For 2 fighting, does 180 damage, plus 40 more damage for each of your benched Stage 2 Pokemon. You can actually do some big damage with this card. This card has been seen play with cards like Pidgeot EX, Grand Tree, Garchomp EX. The new Blaziken EX we looked at as a way to accelerate energy to Mamoswine. Even Dragapult for a bit. So, not a bad card. I don't think it's, like, anything super crazy, though. Like, a fun deck for sure. More on the rogue side. I think it's cool. If you're somebody who wants to play it, I mean, I guess go ahead and play it. Pick up 3 copies of it. But, yeah. I don't think Mamoswine will be super competitive, but having 3 of them, 4 of them, playset, whatever, it wouldn't hurt, I guess. All right. We do have a new Regirock here. Rock Armor. This Pokemon has any energy on it. This takes less damage from attacks, but unfortunately, the Regirock isn't fantastic. Not to mention the Regis rotate. The new Lycanroc is cool. It's got the ability Entangling Spikes. When you play this card from your hand to evolve on your Pokemon, once your turn, touch up the 2 Spike Energy from your discard pile to it, and then does Grabbing Fangs for 3 colorless energy, 40 damage, plus 40 more damage for each damage counter on the opponent's active. It does combine really well with Spike Energy, which we'll look at very soon. Spike Energy is like Rocky Helmet, and yeah, I mean, this card's cute, but not a very competitive card. More of a fun deck for sure, but yeah, just more for fun. All right, new Hops Sandaconda isn't great. I don't think the Hops deck will really play. It is a fighting type, but even with, like, some of the fighting support we're getting, I just don't think it's very good in the Hops deck. This Toedscool is interesting. Forest Path. As long as this Pokemon's on your bench, your active Pokemon's retreat cost is 2 colors less. It's not a bad card. Now, it doesn't apply it for itself, which is unfortunate because it has a 2 retreat cost. It's not a terrible card to have in Toedscool decks. You know, there's this Toedscool, the other one that blocks, like, Superior Retrieval, and then the EX. So maybe just, you want maybe 1 copy of this card at most, in all honesty. Just 1 copy will probably be fine, but other than that, you probably don't need any more. Just 1 copy will probably do if you want to get this card. All right, new Cloth isn't very playable, I don't think. All right, we got new Weezing. Not very playable either. New Paldean Clodsire EX. Once again, this was from the starter decks in Japan. Again, though, it doesn't really do anything too crazy, like 60 damage, retreat locks, poisons your opponent's active, which isn't bad in all honesty, but, I mean, Baby Pekron is just better in my opinion, but yeah, not a very good card. This new Tyranitar is pretty good, though. It's got Daunting Gaze. While this Pokemon's in the active spot, your opponent can't play any items from their hand. Pretty strong ability. Item locking is nice. Now, it does have to be in the active, so your opponent can always like play boss or bundle or something to get around it. But still, item locking is very powerful. And then you got Crackling Stomp, which does 150 damage. You discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Not a bad attack either. Extra milling can go a long way. This card could be good with that Selgor we looked at. Like any hit and run deck could play this, like Flygon EX maybe. Yeah, really nice card. I mean, I don't know if it'll like be that playable in all honesty. It is a stage 2, which kind of hurts it, but definitely not bad. I mean, getting a playset isn't the worst thing ever. Getting like 3 of them, probably not a bad idea, just because it actually is kind of decent. Ends Purloin. Your opponent reveals their hand, put a card you find there on the bottom of their deck. Cute attack. I don't know if it's very good, though. Like, I guess you could play it in the Ends deck, but I think it's just not worth it. We got Enzora, and then, of course, Zoroark EX, a very strong card. Trade. Discard a card from your hand in order to use the ability. Once you're in turn, draw 2 cards. Great ability. Obviously, it's like Refinement on Curlia. And then you got Night Joker. Choose one of your bench Ends Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So you can copy Darmanitan, Joltik, Purloin, I guess, for 2 energy, which is really, really cool. Very powerful card. But the Ends Pokemon are just very mediocre, in my opinion. There is one other one we're going to look at that's actually pretty good. But yeah, I mean, this is a great card. I would get a playset of it for sure. I think Zoroark, even if it's not going to see play for the attack, the ability alone makes it playable. So yeah, 4 copies of Zoroark, 4 copies of Zoroark, easy peasy right there. Get 4 copies of these cards. It's that good of a card to have. Like I said, the ability alone is really good. And if you want to play the deck, you know, it's a bonus on top of it. Bombirdier, Drop Shot, Scarlet Energy from this Pokemon does 120 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Not great. It is a basic, though. So maybe you can find a way to build it up. It could be a cute little bench sniper. All right, we got Ends Clink. And then Ends Clang. Now, this card is interesting. It's got Triple Smash. It just can be copied with Zoroark. Does 120 damage. You flip 3 coins. Does 120 for each heads. Unfortunately, not great. It is very risky. If there was a way to reflip the attack, I could maybe see this card working within Zoroark. Because, actually, 2 heads does knock out big basic Pokemon. That's very unlikely to happen, though, which is the problem. You can flip 3 heads, though, and do, what, 260 damage, which is kind of crazy. Or 360, sorry. 260, 360. I mean, it's cool, but again, it's a very risky card to play. There's no way to reflip the attack, which is the issue. It's also a stage 2, which makes it a bit harder to get out. I don't see the Ends deck playing this card at all, so I would probably pass on this card. Yeah, I don't think it's very good. New Stunfisk, not very good. Meowscarada is interesting. Auto heal, as long as it's in the active spot. Whenever you attach energy from a hand to one of your Pokemon, heal 90 from it. This ability has worked before on like cards like Miltank. This card does work with Rescue Bro, which is really cool. I think it's actually decently playable in a format where like spread damage actually is kind of decent right now. It's not the worst card to have in the format. I don't know what deck will play it immediately, but if any deck can figure out a way to fit this card in their deck, not a bad card to have. I would definitely pick up at least 1 copy of this card, because the ability definitely has potential to work at some point in the future. So 1 Meowscarada probably won't hurt to have, because I think its ability is actually kind of decent. Hops Corviknight is interesting, especially because it is a Hops Pokemon, has so much support behind it. Shoot through 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, then Steel Wing, 150 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 60 less damage from attacks. I don't know if the Hops deck will actually play this card, though. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't know. More of a meme. One of the weaker Hops cards, like the Sandaconda we talked about. New Copperage is not great. New Hopsation, though, is pretty good. Close Cleave, 1 Colorless Energy, does 30 damage. Does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and then Brave Slash for 4 energy. Does 240 damage, and then it can't use Brave Slash next turn. This card actually has worked quite well in a lot of different decks. Even in the Hops deck itself, you can play it within Frostlass. Archaladon has been playing it. You can play with, like, Metang or something, I guess. This card does have a lot of ways to make itself do more damage, which is the big deal with the Hop Station, right? It can do a ton of damage with Close Cleave or Brave Slash, which is what makes it so good. Probably going to want 4 copies of it. I don't know if you really need 4 copies. Like, I don't really see a deck playing 4 of it, but having a playsetization isn't the end of the world. At least you want 3 of these at minimum. So, definitely not a bad card to pick up, because the Hops deck is pretty broken. And there's a lot of Hops cards you're going to want to get to on top of the Zacian, though. All right, so Hop Salmon is actually very interesting. It's got the attack Wide Blast for a Fire and 2 Colorless Energy. Does 50 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Actually a pretty strong attack. Once again, Manaphy is rotating. There's actually a lot of value you can get out of Wide Blast if you can build it up. And then you got Dragon Impact, does 300 damage. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. I mean, it's a cute little Pokemon, does big damage, has a really good spread attack. Again, Manaphy is no longer in the format. This card could see some play. I don't think it's like super competitive though, kind of like Mamoswine in that regards, but there are ways you can build it. I've seen it within Charizard EX and stuff. Blaziken, maybe you can build it up. I guess there's another way you can power it up. It's a cute card. I don't know if you want to pick up any copies of it. Maybe like get 3 copies of it at most. I don't think it'll like see a lot of play, but having 3 copies of it just in case this ends up being good at some point in the future probably isn't the end of the world. Because it does have potential. I just don't think the potential's right there. It's like Mamoswine. Pick up a couple copies of it if you want, but I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't see a lot of play. This new Draudigon has Dragon Rush, 120, or the 1 energy does 20 damage. Attach basic fire from your discard to one of your fire Pokemon. It's like fine. You can build up Salamence. There you go. Now, Ancestral is very good. Powerful Rage, 20 damage for each damage count on this Pokemon, and then Verge's Flame, 170. This card can be copied, of course, with Zoroark. And then Zoroark, using Powerful Rage, seems pretty good if they don't one-shot you. This card is great within the Zoroark deck. You're going to want at least 1 or 2 copies of it for that deck alone. It's probably all you need, though. Not much more, because it's not good outside of playing it with Zoroark, obviously. But, yeah, a couple copies of it for the Ends deck is definitely not a bad idea, for sure. Hops, Snorlax, Big Belly. The attacks of your Hops Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. It's obviously great in the Hops deck. It doesn't stack, though. You can't have multiple Snorlax in play, but there are a lot of ways you can increase your damage output, and Snorlax is just one of the many ways to do it. There is a very good item card Hops deck gets to play to get the Snorlax out very easily. Probably going to want 1 copy of it, at least for the Hops deck for sure. The Hops deck will play this, so you want at least 1 copy of it for that broken ability. And then we got Furret, which is bad. New Dunsparce CX, another really strong card. Adversity Tail, 1 Colorless Energy does 60 damage, 60 more damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon EX in play. A really strong attack. Obviously, we do have the Dunsparce from Temporal Forces, I think, that can draw you cards, which is a very good card. So there's a nice engine to have with these Dunsparces. There's a draw one and then a good attacking one. Can punish your opponent for putting X's in play. Very good against stuff like Raging Bolt and Terra Box, where most of their bench consists of EX Pokemon, and then you have Drill Break 150 and then isn't affected by any effects. So you even have a Shred Attack, which is nice to go through Mimikyus and walls and stuff. So very strong card. I definitely think you want to pick up at least a few copies of this Dunsparce. Most decks will be playing 1 copy of it if they're going to slide it into the Dunsparce engine, but a couple copies of it won't hurt at all to have, just in case. Pretty strong card for sure. Yeah, you definitely want to get a few copies of this if you can. New Kecleon doesn't really do anything too crazy. Audino, nothing good. New Cinccino is pretty bad. Just some starter deck Pokemon. Noivern's cute. Turning Echo. If you and your opponent have the same number of cards in your hand, you ignore all energy and its attack cost, and it does 110 damage and then confuses your opponent's active Pokemon. But unfortunately, it's not a very playable card. Just kind of underwhelming. But it's not a bad card for Bad Deck Friday. But, you know, just won't see a lot of competitive play. Kamala Harris. Not very good either. 30 damage. Both active Pokemon are asleep. During your next turn, attacks used by this Pokemon do 100 more damage. It's cute, but it's most likely going to get knocked out before you get to do anything with it, obviously. Alrighty then. We got Hops, Rookidee, and Corvisquire to go with the Corviknight. But again, the Corviknight line isn't like that great in all honesty. There's just better Hops Pokemon to choose from. Like Hops, Double, Challenging Horn, or Challenge Horn, I guess I should say. When you place Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, during your turn, you can switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon in the active spot. Great ability. It's like Umbreon VMAX's ability or Lycanroc GX's ability. This card is great within the Hops deck, but also has been seen play with cards like Archaladon EX to aggressively knock stuff out on the bench. Great card. I think you probably want to pick up at least a playset of this. I mean, you probably only need 2 copies of it, but a playset definitely wouldn't hurt to have of this Hops Double. So I'd probably get a playset of the Double and the Wooloo if you can, because it's seen quite a bit of play right now in Japan in some archetypes, right? Then we have this new Hops Cramorant Fickle Spit, 120 damage. If your opponent doesn't have exactly 3 or 4 prizes remaining, the attack does nothing. This card is very strong. Again, there are ways you can make it do more damage. It's also a pretty universally splashable card in a lot of different decks. It's a pretty strong card. I definitely wouldn't mind seeing you pick up a couple copies of it. Definitely, I'm going to pick up a few copies of it if I can, because it is a very strong card. It also, like I said, universally splashable in some decks. Even though 1 for 120 isn't as good as it used to be, because it's very similar to an old baby Buzzwole, it's definitely not a bad card to pick up. Just a couple copies of, just in case. New Oinkologne isn't very good. I think that's it for the Pokemon. We can move on now to the items and trainers. New Billy and Onair trainer. Draw 2 cards. If you have 10 or more cards in your hand, draw 2 more cards. I mean, it's a funny little card, but, like, bro, even, like, Goldengo, it's not going to see a lot of play. So, probably not very good to have. There's another Black Belt reprint in this set. I'm sure you might already have Black Belt, hopefully, from, like, Prismatic. So, there's a couple versions of it. 3 of them, actually. So, I assume you already have Black Belt. So, I mean, if you don't for some reason, you can get Black Belt. Definitely a card you want at least a couple copies of, or at least a playset of. Then we got Brock Scouting. Choose one. Search deck for 2 basics, reveal them, put in your hand, or search deck for an evolution, put in your hand. The supporter is actually not that bad. There are other cards that are better than it, like Jock and even Drayton to a degree. It's like a cute little supporter. You maybe want to have at least 1 copy of Brock Scouting, maybe 2 at most, just in case. It might be good at some point. I could see a playset, but yeah, for now, you probably need like 1 or 2 copies of Brock, in all honesty. Now, Hop's Bag is very good. Search deck for 2 basic Hops Pokemon and put them on your bench. Broken card, obviously, that's like getting everything. Get Zacian, the Snorlax, the Wooloo, the Cramorant. It's like Battle VIP Pass for Hops Pokemon. Pretty broken card. You're probably going to need 4 copies of it in the Hops deck. So yeah, just get a playset of this card. It's a very good card. We got Hops Choice Band, another broken card. When the Hops Pokemon this card is attached to attacks, or use the attack costs 1 colorless more, and they do 30 more damage to your opponent's active. Insanely broken card. It's like counter gain without the effect of being behind in prizes, and something like Defiance Band without being behind in prizes put together. This card is broken in Hops deck. You're probably going to need 4 of them. Once again, a playset of Hops Choice Band and Hops Bag is something you're going to want to have, so you're going to want 4 of these for sure. Like Zacian, 240 for 3 energy seems pretty appealing all of a sudden. Iris' Fighting Spirit. Discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw cards, you have 6 in your hand. It's not a bad supporter. I've seen decks playing like a couple copies of it because like Iona Research is just better. However, a playset of Iris' Fighting Spirit probably wouldn't be bad, just in case at some point this card ends up actually being a good draw supporter. So I would maybe pick up 4 copies of Iris if you can. I don't think it's great right away. Like most decks that will play like 1 or 2 of these, but having 4 of them wouldn't hurt. So that's why I'm saying pick up a playset of this card. Lavencia. Once you're in each player's turn, that player may put up the 2 basic energy from the discard pile in their hand. Really good in the Iono's Belly Bolt deck, obviously, to get the energy back for Belly Bolt's ability, but also a pretty good card within Goldengo, because it can count as energy retrieval if you play a couple copies of Lightning within your Goldengo deck. So, if you're going to play Goldengo, you probably want 1 or 2 of these, but a playset is probably needed just in general, because you probably want to play within the Belly Bolt deck if you build it. So, yeah, this will be good as a 4 of, for sure. Even though if you're playing Goldengo like me, you only really need a couple copies of it, but like I said, universally good card within Belly Bolt too. So 4 copies is probably what you want. Liz Pearl's interesting. If the Liz Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from attack, your opponent will take 1 for your prize. Could actually be good within the Clefairy. Even if you're not using like a Lily's Engine, you can at least play this with the Clefairy just to have it on it. So you can use a 1 prizer effectively to knock out Raging Bolt and Dragapult. Pretty strong card in that regard. So maybe pick up a playset just in case, just to have 4 of them. Probably only really need like 2 copies of it at most, but yeah, some decks that will use Liz Clefairy may incorporate this card as a way to make Clefairy be a 1 prizer that can one-shot Dragapult, which seems very valuable. Ends Castle. Each Ends Pokemon in play has no retreat cost. Nice card to have in the Zoroark deck. There are a lot of stadiums that deck can play in all honesty, though, especially because Darumaka can't be poffined out, so even like Artisan can be good in that deck. But, you know, 2 of these at most is what you may need, but I wouldn't mind picking up a playset just in case, right? 4 copies of Ends Castle wouldn't be a bad idea. All right, then we got Ends PP Up. Touch base energy from discard pile. To every bench Ends Pokemon. Again, very good card in the Ends deck. It's how you're going to build up like your Ends Pokemon, like your Zoroarks and your Darmanitans and stuff. So, yeah, you want 4 of these without a doubt. 4 copies of Ends PP Up. Definitely you need to get these as soon as possible. And then we got Postwick. The attacks of your Hops Pokemon even do 30 more damage. Oh my gosh. So we got Snorlax, Choice Band, and Postwick to make Hops Pokemon hit even higher numbers. Insane multipliers can be in effect. It's a stadium, so the Hops deck now has a pretty decent stadium to play within the Stadium Wars, which is nice. So yeah, you probably want 4 of these for sure. The Hops deck may not play 4 of them, but just once again, having a playset isn't terrible. So I would probably pick up 4 Postwick if you can. And then we got Research Reprint, obviously nothing crazy. This new ticket card here. After counting your prize cards, shuffle them and put them at the bottom of your deck, and then take the many cards from the top of your deck and put them face down as your prizes. There's some cool things you can do with this card. You maybe want 1 or 2 copies of it. It's a cute little card with some interesting combos, so maybe pick up 2 of these if you can. We got Ruffian. Choose 1 of your opponent's Pokemon, discard a tool, and a special energy from that Pokemon. I don't know if this card is very good. I mean, it's like maybe better than something like Giacomo, which kind of is something similar. I don't think it's like crazy. Like maybe just pick up a few of these if you want. I don't know if it's very good even in like a control style deck. I don't know. I mean, it's actually, the more I think about it, the more I like it. It's actually a pretty good counter to like the walls. You can get rid of Mist Energy, and you can get rid of their Heroescape if they choose to play it. So actually, maybe I'm overestimating or underestimating how good it is. Yeah, maybe pick up a few copies of it. It's actually not bad, like counter supporter. We got Super Potion, heal 60 damage from 1 of your Pokemon. If you do discard energy from the Pokemon, Super Potion has never really been like that good. It's seen like mild play before. I would argue the Hyper Potion from like the I think it was Hyper Potion from the Sword and Shield era was a lot better. I mean, maybe pick up a couple copies of it, I guess. It's not the worst card to have access to, but I can't really think of any decks that'll use it right now, in my opinion. Spike Energy is cute. Attached to a Pokemon provides a colorless energy. This Pokemon is attached in the action spot, gets damaged by an attack. You put your damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, and it also stacks. So multiple Spike Energy lets you put even more damage counters on, which is kind of cool. So fun little card. I don't think it's like crazy good. Obviously, Lugia rotating maybe was a big deal for it, because this card technically has some cool uses. But outside of that, I mean, it's like fine. Maybe pick up a playset, I guess. Just doesn't hurt to have a playset of special energy in general, even though Spike Energy isn't like crazy good. And that's it for the set, I think. There are obviously the secret rares and stuff like that. The big chase card being the Glorious Clefairy. Zoroark also being pretty expensive in Zacian. But there you go. Those are the secret rares and stuff in Journey Together. I guess one thing I did want to mention real quick. I was talking earlier about the Kling Klang not being very good. I was just thinking about this as I was talking about the Zoroark and stuff. So the Kling Klang I said you probably don't need. But you know what? The more I think about it, even though there is no Coin Flip Reflip card, actually you probably want to get a playset of this, because if that new Shaman coming out in Destined Rivals in May is good, the Zoroark deck becomes a ton weaker, because all of a sudden the deck loses this Darmanitan potential, which is what made the deck so good in the first place. So maybe the end Zoroark deck has to just use Kling Klang as a way to attack your opponent. So actually pick up a playset of these. If you're somebody who wants to play Zoroark for a long time, because we're getting a Manaphy card back, Darmanitan gets worse, you might want to pick up Kling Klang, because I can actually see the Zoroark deck trying to use Kling Klang in the near future. So I said don't get it, actually get it, because it actually could be good. But there you go. That is my buy list set review for Journey Together. It's a pretty good set. There's a lot of really cool new cards in the set. And the format is going to be a lot different because, again, we get rotation. So a lot of these like older cards like Dragapult and stuff and like the Terra decks are getting a lot better. And we're going to see these new archetypes like Zoroark and the Hops decks become a lot better. And some pretty funny X's like Blaziken, Mamoswine, Salamence. Some cool stuff in the set. The Dunsparce EX being really good. And there you go. That's my complete set review of the set. I cannot wait for Journey Together. It is coming out very soon here, and I'm sure some of y'all have already had a taste of the set at the pre-releases. I'm excited to get some deck profiles out, actually, for the post-rotation deck. So definitely get excited for that. In the next couple of days, there will be some deck profile videos coming out here on the second channel on a rotation deck. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe down below. Check out the sponsors down below. Check out my main channel, all that stuff. And let me know what your favorite card within Journey Together is down below in the comment section. I'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.